Good morning again. So, the coronavirus has highlighted, as we talked about yesterday, our need for a relationship and the fact that relationship is just absolutely central to human meaning and being able to live a human life. The second thing that the coronavirus has done with regard to existentialism is it has highlighted absurdity. So, the last philosopher we're going to take a look at, his name is John Paul Sartre, and he's an atheistic existentialist, so he doesn't believe that God exists. And the atheistic existentialists came to the fore after World War II, where they saw just massive destruction of human life and ended up concluding there's no way that there's a God who exists. And this is really important because it's going to shift the tone toward initially something dark, which is the recognition of absurdity. So when I say this, or when we talk about this, it is in class, it's usually really depressing. Right now, I think it'll be in your wheelhouse in the sense that it's going to be something that you've already thought about and that you are thinking about. And I don't think it will be that out of place. I think it'll put a name to what many of us are feeling, which is that life is absurd. And what absurdity means, just in itself, the word absurd means that something is nonsensical. It doesn't make any sense. Can't explain it. There's no answer for it. I read a quote this week about absurdity is the unanswerable, having unanswerable questions. But it's bigger than that. It is this fact that, according to the atheistic existentialist, everything we want life to be, it's not. So we can start listing things that make life feel absurd. The fact that life is meaningless if God doesn't exist. The fact that we all die. The fact that our lives are, and I think this is one of the things that you realize during the crisis, that normally our lives are just this repetitious hamster in a wheel, going and doing and going and doing and going and doing until what? Until we die. So we can what? Make money so that we can have kids so that they can do the same thing, go to school, make money, have kids, and then die. And this is not a new concept. This goes all the way back to the beginning of human literature. This sense of futility to our lives. Other things that make life absurd: the fact that there is incredible violence throughout the world, that there is suffering throughout the world, that people who commit evil crimes are often not brought to justice, the fact that our relationships are often broken, the fact that we're destroying nature, you name it. This is not the life that we wanted, so to speak. This is not the world as we would have pictured it ourselves. It is absurd. It makes no sense. Our lives are controlled by chance. It's just a matter of chance that we're all in situations that we are, whether they are good or bad. For those of us who are fortunate, the term fortune is luck. And for those who are unfortunate, it's just bad luck. And those of us who go through crises, they're crises that make no sense. That's absurdity. And you can certainly feel, I would imagine some of you have felt waves of that during the coronavirus shift in our lives, that there's just this overwhelming sense at times of meaninglessness and emptiness. And it sort of seems like all of life, all the things that we cared about, just sort of fizzle as the illusions that they were for the illusions that they were. And the atheistic existentialist thinks that this is the most fundamental fact of existence. Humans are thrown into a world that doesn't care about them, that was not designed for them, because there's no God who designed this world for us. We are thrown into a world that doesn't care about us and that does not serve our needs the way that we would want them to be served. It is a disappointment. It's absurd. It makes no sense. You hear some of the interviews with doctors and nurses who are on the front lines, and one of the phrases that you hear often is, "This is not what we signed up for." That there's no way to to hold up underneath the type of insanity that they are seeing. It just makes no sense. So a couple years ago, actually just two or three, I was at my friend's house. His dad's a doctor, and I was waiting for my friend, so I picked up his dad's medical journal, Journal of American Medical Association, just to see, curiously if I could understand anything inside of it. And I stumbled upon an article called "The Absurd," and I thought, well, this can't be what I actually think it is. Like, this isn't philosophy, is it? It's what I read it, and it is. And so I've given you the article here. I'd like to ask you to read it, and then I'd like to have you complete the Google form, just a question or two, with regard to absurdity and absurdity that you've experienced, absurdity that you might experience in your life as you move forward into your career, and thinking all about all of this in terms of the coronavirus, because again, I think that the coronavirus highlights absurdity, highlights the absurdity of our lives and of life in general, and I think brings a heightened awareness of it. Now, this is not where the atheistic existentialist is going to end. They're not going to say that this is everything, but they think that you can't understand human existence and human meaning unless you recognize that life is absurd. You have to get that down. Life is absurd. This is just where we find ourselves. It is a crazy world. Crazy. Makes no sense. Go ahead and read the article, complete the form, and then I'll see you tomorrow.